what is going on the mind. I guess now people could be very busy for the whole day. It's Monday, as I can imagine. So before we start the session today, let's keep silent for 3 minutes. For these 3 minutes, you can reflect how many moments you were not present, or simply just focus on the breath. To come back to breath time and time again. And then after this short session of the quietness, let's come back to the topic and look at the mind together. What is meditation? Is mere meditation focusing on breath, or is meditation something beyond it? Nowadays, I think mindfulness practice has been so popular in many people, right? To calm down the nerves, to try to find a peaceful place from within in this chaotic world. The society, which is always chaotic, as you feel. There are so many different methods to meditate, right? Like yoga. There's so many other ways, also like breath meditation, which is the one we also used later in the session today. So there are millions of methods. You can also devise and design your own method to meditate. Because those methods are only one of those paths. One of those forms that meditates. What is meditation? Meditation more than how to meditate, is it? I guess you have gathered a lot of information from books, internet about how to meditate. The techniques of doing that, which to some extent are rather mechanical, right? It's more like a skills you can pick up by focusing on the breath. But understanding meditation is beyond how to meditate. And the very process of understanding meditation is meditation. Meditation is not something we do only within 10 minutes or 20 minutes for some peace and calm. Meditation is the life, is it? It's not your life, my life. It's the life. To meditate means to live a life. To live a life with a truly peaceful mind. Not some quietness between two thoughts, but a really quiet mind, beyond the thoughts. The way to understand the world. What is the world? Have you ever considered this question before? What is the world? Isn't it the inner projection? It seems that there's a world outside from the window. But isn't it the accumulation and combination of your perception? Which means that it is just the projection of your inner world. To understand this world, this chaotic world, is to understand the chaotic inner world, is it? Look at this violent society in all kinds of ways. Isn't it mere the projection of all the inner chaos, the inner violence, all kinds of aggressions, all kinds of ego stuff, all kinds of self-defense? To understand this part peacefully means that we need to have a very subtle mind. But a mind has to be very quiet, a quiet and a subtle mind to understand this whole process. This is meditation. To live peacefully requires a huge amount of wisdom, is it? And this huge amount of wisdom comes from our subtle mind. So we can notice all kinds of subtle activities in a peaceful way. Then one can find wisdom to work out of the chaos. So how to understand this whole world, the whole chaotic world, the whole chaos? Should I follow somebody to understand it? Like you can follow me to understand it? Or should I read some books to understand it? Can it work or not? If you want to read some books or just simply follow me to understand it, actually you are seeking an authority to guide you through this chaos. You have your inner world. The chaos is there. You can see it. And how can I say it? Because that is in your mind, not on my mind. So the very pursuit of the authority, that action to seek, blocks us from understanding the world. We always pick up some theories or conclusions from other people to interpret this world. You know that it's only give us much more misunderstanding and confusion. That's it. No matter how careful I refine my words, the language, it always ends up your different perceptions. Have you ever considered or noticed this issue of the language? How limited it is to convey the meanings, especially about the mind, about the inner world. So, to understand this whole part, which means that you have to negate all kinds of psychological authorities. If you didn't negate it, you would always have desire to follow someone, which, of course, blocks you from learning who you really are, right? So, simply speaking, to meditate is to turn inward, to look within, to understand who you really are. to understand the self. Which means that you need to learn about yourself. But here comes another question. What is learning? Because, the language is always confusing. If you learn something, does that mean you accumulate some knowledge about something? If you think in that way, I'm sorry, this is not the learning we mean. Learning here means observing the mind non-judgmentally. At present, yes, look at the mind at this moment without resorting to the past knowledge or experiences. We have a lot of knowledge about the life, the mind, whatever. A lot of experiences. We tend to use that as a filter to look at the world. No, none of them. That's the way to learn. To look at each moment with a fresh mind. That's the way to observe, to learn, which is, unfortunately, the only way to understand the mind, the self. This is meditation. To be able to do that, many people probably need a lot of adjustments, right? A lot of mental actions has to be changed, has to be observed. When we talk about observance, we observe the mind. Who are we? Who is the mind? Have you ever considered this question seriously? Because this is from the grammar of the language, which might convey some meaning, which can convey some unwholesome meaning, which can influence us in all kinds of subtle ways. We observe the mind. Who are we? Who is the mind? Have you ever noticed that this structure of a sentence divide we and the mind? We observe mind. It seems that the mind is something beyond us, outside of us, so we can see it, observe it. This is also a habit of thinking. To thinking that we and the mind are two different things, so we can observe the mind. I can observe my anger. Anger is something different from me, so I can observe it, I can suppress it. This view is also a habit, habitual thinking. Is it? We are the mind. The mind is us, right? All the thoughts running in it. All kinds of mental images combine to make a me. It's the mind, is it? So you are the mind. I am the mind. But if I say, I observe the mind, I create such a division. Where there is a division, there is a conflict in any way, right? There's me, which seems to be different from the mind, happen. So in order to explore the inner mind, we always keep the mind quiet, to keep it not cluttered with all kinds of thoughts or from all kinds of habits and influences. So in the next 10 minutes, let's meditate. Simply to quieten the mind, focus on the sensation of it, which is not thoughts anyway. During the meditation, try your best to focus on the breath and don't identify or interact with thoughts. Let it come, let it be, let it go. None doing about the thoughts, just focus on the breath. So luckily we have the audio guide, so you can follow it to make sure that you can focus on the breath. And process, if you find it difficult, be kind to yourself. Because probably at the moment, when you take a longer time to quieten down, it doesn't matter. Don't criticize yourself. Don't opinions about the practice. Just follow it, do it. Surrender yourself to this experience fully. Now, let's take a 10-minute meditation. Start by taking a moment to find a comfortable position to sit in a posture that you feel relaxed and get alert. Let hands rest on your knees or laps. Let the eyes close gently. Soften your forehead. Act a soft smile in the corner of your lips. Breathe naturally. As you breathe in, be aware that you are breathing in. Feel the sensation of breathing in. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. As you breathe out, be aware that you are breathing out. Feel the sensation out. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. Fix your attention on the breath. Let go of any thought, words, images. This moment, nothing is more important than breath. While you are listening to the bell, check where your attention is. If it wasn't on the breath, after the bell, gently invite your attention back to the breath and sustain your attention on the breath. Slowly bring your awareness back to this room. Feel into your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. When you are ready, open your eyes. I hope everybody had a good moment to meditate. At this time of the day, I guess there could be many thoughts going through your head. And during this 10-minute meditation, thoughts keep popping back. How busy the mind was, is it? The mind was busy being engaged in all kinds of thoughts, illusions, mental images. That's why everyone is so busy. Physically busy is only an excuse for the mental ones, right? The thoughts keeps running. Your mind is this, my mind is that. Also similar, right? It's also similarly fraught with all kinds of thoughts. Then look at the whole society. A society fraught with thoughts. A society running based on thoughts. Have you ever noticed that? The thoughts have become so important in the life. Is it? From the very foundation of the society, the economic structure. Actually, it's just a mental construct, is it? Let's just look at the capitalism. It's full of all kinds of numbers, measurement. Where there is a measurement, there is the movement of thought, right? When a society is based on some measurement, we have something to measure. We have some standard by which we can measure the progress. So-called the progress, the society, to measure how rich you are, to measure how wealthy, how healthy, how beautiful. So many different measurements. What does measurement imply? Comparison, right? We keep comparing all the time, thanks to all kinds of measurements. Where there's a comparison, there's calculation. Look at the whole economic mental construct. Everyone is comparing, everyone is calculating, everyone is mutually use and exploit each other for something, for pleasure, right? If this measurement or the system of measurements become mainstream, which means that this mental construct is running through almost everyone's head, what would happen? Actually, what has happened? Dehumanization, right? Dehumanization. Where there's a thought, there's no humanity, to be honest. People's mind just fall into the groove of this thinking, right? Mutually exploit each other, use each other, profit, maximize profiting. Then the humanity is threatened. The society is becoming more and more efficient. But you may have felt that it is becoming cruel as well. Much more cruel than ever. Being cruel means being lack of humanity, right? The relation between you and me degrades from the interaction between two people to money, to the economic relation. When living in this mental construct, how can you be free from thoughts? All kinds of thoughts, right? Comparing, calculating the loss and gain financially, all kinds of benefits. Benefit of what? You, right? Benefit yourself. What is the self? The ego. Right? That's why, because this kind of economic mental construct, the monotonous measurement system, the society is becoming more and more individual, which means more and more egocentric. The big ego, the self, which is the source, the only source of all kinds of mental conflicts as you explore the mind. Where there's a self, there's no humanity. That's a hard fact. Where there's a self, there are all kinds of thoughts running around a center, the self, right? The thought is for calculating, evaluating, comparing. This all the the signal of the movement of thoughts around the center. If there's no center, what's the point of calculating? What's the point of evaluating? So, to meditate is not to end the thoughts, but it's to understand the whole process of the thoughts. The self is also a thought, right? Yourself, the self, is mere accumulation of all kinds of mental images. Your self-image, your status, position, title, anything. The self is also thought, right? A combination of different thoughts or mental images. So people just want to practice mindfulness to end the thoughts, to peace, to pursue peace. But if one couldn't understand the whole process of thinking, the nature of mind, what's the point of doing mindfulness practice? The purpose of seeking peace destroys the practice of mindfulness practice, is it? If you have a very strong intention, motivation to do something, that motivation destroys you. You can feel it, right? From your life experience. This also applies to meditation. To meditate is to understand the nature of the mind, to clear the confusion about life. When you are not confused, there's clarity, right? You don't have any questions about life because you are clear about that. No questions. Where does the thought come from? But as long as one is confused, all the questions come back, which is just keeps bothering one, and one wants to seek answers, which is another game of mental world. Unless one realizes that, okay, I need to clear confusion, not to answer the questions, which is meaningless and unlimited. I can't answer all the questions. But if I have no confusion, there's no questions to answer about life. So, just further to what we talked about at the beginning of the session, the very process of understanding meditation is meditation. And this whole process of meditating leads to the mutation of the psyche. Which make one fall into a brand new dimension to see this world without any filters. So a mindful life is a life living with truth and facts, not in illusions and thoughts. So when you are living with facts, there's only clarity and peace and joy follows. Great. That's all for today's session. And we have talked about what is mindfulness, what is meditation, talk about the self, the whole process of thoughts. And it's really up to you to observe it. Your observance is the only way to understand its whole part. So, any questions for this part before we finish today's session? If no, that's all for today's session. And all the content will be published through YouTube channel, so you can watch the playback if you want, or you can just listen to the podcast of this session. The podcast is through Mindiverse Awakening Talk. You can find it from all the platforms like Spotify, Apple, or Google. And finally, thank you for being here tonight to spend the last 1 hour. And I hope everyone has a good weekend. Has a good week ahead. And that's it. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.